Hello guys, welcome back to Self Study YouTube channel. This video lecture is for 10th standard SSC board students, and our today's topic is lesson number 2, location and extent of geography. In this lesson, we are going to study about India and Brazil. We know that lesson number 1 was our field visit. From lesson number 2 to lesson number 9, we are going to study the characteristics, the features, the similarities, the differences between India and Brazil. Now, why India and Brazil only? Because they had the same condition at past as well as the present situation, and there are quite similarities between India and Brazil. So, therefore, these two countries are there for our study. Okay, so let us study geography with self-study. Now, the very first thing given on page number 9 is identify the country. Flags are given and some clues are given. So the first country is India. Okay, and these are the clues. This can be asked, so be prepared for that as well. So this is the flag of India. India is the name, and second largest populated country in the world. India is at the second rank in population rate, and the first one is China, as we know. So India's rank is second. Famous for spices in the world. Cricket is the most popular sport here. So these clues, remember them as they can come. So India's population, so as it is second largest populated country in the world, its population is 135.26 crore. In year 2018 this census was conducted, and in 2018 only in China it was 139.27 crore. So you can see that they are quite near to each other, not much difference. So this was the population of India. Now the cricket is the very famous sport, popular sport here. Now keep this in mind that cricket is not the national sport of India, as cricket is the most popular and famous sport, but national sport is hockey. Okay, now spices. India is famous for spices. Okay, let us move ahead. Now there is another flag given on page number 9 itself. This flag is of Brazil. Now it is famous for samba dance. Samba dance is the famous type of dance in Brazil. So Brazil is famous for samba dance. Then coffee pot of the world. Brazil is called as the coffee pot of the world because coffee production, most of the coffee production takes place in Brazil. Now football is the very popular sport here. Now this also you have to remember. Just an additional information I like to give is Brazil's population is 20.95 crore. This was also conducted in 2018 census. So Brazil's population is very less as compared with India's population. Okay, coffee pot of the world, as large amount of coffee is produced there, and football is the most popular sport or famous sport in Brazil. Okay, before starting we will have a quick basics to understand the concept. So I have made some basic slides as well, so that our concepts are clear while studying the lesson, so there will be no difficulty regarding it. So the very first concept which need to be clear is latitudes. What are latitudes? Latitudes are these horizontal lines, as you can see over here in this image. These are the imaginary horizontal lines. Imaginary horizontal lines, this means that these lines are not real on our earth. These lines are not there, but these lines are made for our convenience, so that extent of the region can be easily identified. Therefore latitudes and longitudes, also there are various importance of them. We are not going to study about that in this, but I'm just telling you that these horizontal imaginary lines are nothing but latitudes, which are imaginary, they are not real. Total they are 180 lines on earth. Horizontal lines are drawn which are 180, and these are known as latitudes. Okay, so horizontal lines are latitudes. Now equator, which is, you all know that it is at 0 degree. So equator is in middle, so it passes through middle of earth, so it divides earth in two equal halves, this part and this part. Now the above part is the northern part or the northern hemisphere, and the below equator, okay, below equator, this part is the southern hemisphere. So I hope this is clear with you, northern and southern hemisphere. So the lines are latitudinal lines. There are total 180 lines. They are horizontal, and equator itself is a horizontal line which divides earth in two equal parts, which is northern and southern hemisphere. Now let us clear the concepts about longitudes. As latitudes were horizontal lines, longitudes are vertical lines. Now these, like this, lines are drawn. Now again these lines are imaginary lines, okay, these lines are imaginary lines. And prime meridian separates, as equator was like this, equator was passing and it was dividing it into two halves like northern and southern hemisphere. Similarly, prime meridian passes through the middle of that longitudinal lines, and it divides earth again in two parts, which is here eastern and here western hemisphere. Now if we draw prime meridian and equator at same, now earth is divided into fourth part, okay. So this whole is northern hemisphere, this whole is southern hemisphere, this is eastern hemisphere, this is western hemisphere. Just to clear the basics, nothing else, we just have to know that longitudes are vertical lines and latitudes are horizontal lines. So longitudes are, there are total 360 like these lines, which are again imaginary lines. Now let us move ahead to clear another concept, which is of equator. Now equator we all know, but we'll just go through it. Now equator is an imaginary horizontal line. As you can see, this red line is indicating equator, and this divides earth into two equal halves, again northern and southern hemisphere. This is again an imaginary horizontal line, and the area near equator is very hot because direct sunlights are parallel to the equator, okay. Now we have cleared the concept about equator, longitude and latitude. Now see here, latitude and longitude. Now equator, this is equator, right? Now equator is dividing earth into two halves, which is this first part is northern part, and this is the southern part. So northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. Prime meridian, this line, whole line, this is dividing earth into western hemisphere and eastern hemisphere. So equator, northern and southern, and prime meridian, eastern and western. I hope this is clear. Again we will have a quick revision on it. So there are four hemispheres: western hemisphere, eastern hemisphere, northern and southern. Again here northern, southern, western and eastern hemisphere is given. Now equator divides into northern and southern, prime meridian divides into eastern and western. Now remember this, that this whole part which I am indicating with green is northern hemisphere, the below part is southern hemisphere. Now with the purple, this part, this as well as this is eastern hemisphere, and this as well as this is western hemisphere. I hope this is clear. Now before going ahead, I like to clear another concept, which is about the countries. Now these are the continents, okay, these are the 7 continents: North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, Antarctica, okay. Now Asia is in which hemisphere? Asia is in northern hemisphere and eastern hemisphere, right? Here northern and eastern, as you can see in this part it is, therefore northern and eastern hemisphere we say. Australia, similarly Australia is in eastern hemisphere. Okay, Australia is in eastern hemisphere and it is below the equator, therefore it is southern hemisphere, as you can see. Now North America, it is in northern hemisphere, as it is on the above, it is above the equator, and in western hemisphere as it is at the west of the prime meridian. Okay, South America, now as you can see over here, some part of South America is above equator and some is below equator. Okay, so equator passes from South America, and also Africa, as you see it, in Africa is divided into two equal halves from because of the equator. So North Africa is also there and South Africa is also there, but Europe, Asia, North America, Australia, Antarctica, these are completely in different hemisphere, as you can see. So I hope the hemisphere concept is clear. I know you know this, but just a quick recap should be there, therefore I told you, and this is important while we are studying the actual lesson, therefore this concept should be clear. Okay, now let us move ahead with the actual chapter, which is location and extent. Now I'll clear with you with these meanings as well, what is location and what is extent. Location, a particular place or position. Now a particular place, now this is in this hemisphere, this is in that. India is in northern and eastern hemisphere, we know this, so this is its location. Okay, now as you see, India is like this over here in the Asian continent. Now in Asian, it is at the southern continent in Asia. Okay, I'm talking about only Asia, don't get confused over here, I'll tell you this ahead as well. But talking about India is over here, it is in northern and eastern hemisphere. Now this northern and eastern hemisphere became India's location. Talking about Brazil is in South America over here. Now Brazil is some part, it is in northern hemisphere, most of the part is in southern hemisphere, and it covers major part in western hemisphere. So this became the location of these two countries. Now I hope location meaning is cleared. Okay, now location, what it was, particular place or position, this hemisphere, that hemisphere, so that is location. Location is nothing but the hemisphere position. Extent, the area covered by something. Now India covers this to this portion and this to this, so in this area only India is covered. Now extent we are going to study ahead, so I'll tell you at that time when we are studying actual extent. So it has degree and minutes, so that is the extent. So area covered by something, that country which we are going to study is India and Brazil. So at that time I'll tell you about the extent, but location I hope it is clear, because it is just about the hemisphere. Okay, so this was only the basic video. In the next part we are going to see India's location and extent. So till then, keep watching, keep learning. Thank you.